tube, so Mrs. wanted me to do that, so I did.
I was doing a bit of cloud warming. I came past yours again today, Jay. She wanted to go to Wilco.
Was it even open?
It was, yes.
Oh, I'm shocked. I went down on the seafront today. I went and sat on the beach and I didn't see a policeman anywhere.
Wonderful.
Hi, Brian. Only just about, mate. Only just about. Just before I say anything to Brian, did you notice when you look back at the town, there's no brown smog haze anymore? No, sorry, Brian. It was for Dave.
Yes, I have noticed, yes.
That was incredible. Anyway, good morning, Brian. How are you, sir? I pray you're looking after yourself and doing well up there.
Yes. That's the point. Thank you that you mentioned that. Yes.
Yeah, I've got no airplanes in the sky. Have you noticed how the weather's been?
Absolutely right. Cannot agree more. That's the fact.
You're correct.
How are you keeping, David?
I'm okay, Peter. Nothing to report here. Still the same old rubbish.
Yeah. You're sounding good.
Nothing changes.
No.
Not much here either.
He's typing.
Probably gone out for a kebab, Brian. No, you hold your ground. Well done, Brian. There's no chance of me being on there. I've no computer. It's a bit hacked around, Brian, at the edges, but they've done a good job.
I thought you had a smartphone. I said, I thought he had a smartphone. I meant Dave.
I wouldn't waste the money on using the internet, Charlie, on a phone.
Yeah, but it doesn't cost any.
Yeah, I'm on pay-as-you-go, it does.
Oh, okay.
Well, we got an hour and a half, Andy. Yes. Brian, don't leave it so long. Or you, Colin.
I can't see it flying.
No, the band's going. Well, I think we've got about 4 minutes.
Yeah, good night, Brian.
Mikey!
Yes,
Yes, David, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello. We've got about 4 minutes and then it will disappear altogether, over.
We'll see. 4 minutes, Mikey, from now, yeah?
It's a shame, really. You know, some nights it goes on till 3 or 4 in the morning. Other nights it, you know, oh, bloody hell. Don't it piss you off, Dave?
Dave, was that guy, was he called Williamson?
Which guy was that, Andy?
Yeah, the guy giving the announcement.
I'm not sure, Andy, to be honest with you. But he was on with a lady as well. She was there with him.
Yeah, confirmed. Yeah, no, he sounds a bit wet and very wet and sort of, you know, that's what his wife tells him to.
Yeah. Yeah, you found him. Isn't it dreadful?
It's awful. Yeah, we got these people running the country. God help us.
Oh, yes.
I have got a question.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, what is submersible?
It means you can put it underwater, over.
Oh, okay, thank you. Waterproof.
Well, yeah, it means that you can chuck it in the bath and it will submerge without getting damaged, over.
Well, we all had one of those toy submarines when we were a kid, didn't we?
Yeah, submersible, yeah. In what context is that, Charlie, over?
Oh, on eBay it's a walkie-talkie. At the moment it costs 60 quid, but the bidding is not over. And Yaesu VX8 submersible transceiver, 50 megs, 140, 40 megs, and 430 megs, 60 quid.
Yeah, well, those, Charlie, you can use them. Some of them actually float. So if you were in a boat and you lost it overboard, you could pick it out the water, over.
Oh dear. Then you can call it distress radio.
Yeah, you could call it distress or that dress or another dress, over.
The diss dresses you well. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was talking to Hubert today. Hubert over in the Netherlands, okay?
Yeah, no, it is not okay, but go on.
He's on a 400-meter horizontal route. And he's going to put out 500 watts on 460, okay?
On 460 kilocycles.
Roger, roger.
The band is, I think it is, you mean 630 meters. What is it, 472 up to 480 or what?
Yes, roger.
Aha, and you could pick him up.
He's going to do a test and let me know when.
Oh, yeah, keep me informed.
Belgium have got new power laws.
Yeah, like you can run as much as you want.
10 kilowatts.
Oops. Oh, that'd be nice.
Hubert, Andy, right? It's really interesting, this. He lives in the Netherlands, but the border with Belgium is about 60 feet away from him. So, he goes into Belgium to run more power.
Yeah, you do what you got to do.
Goodbye.
can hear you all right. You're good as gold down here.
It disappeared and spread in the hospital. It's not bad. Tomorrow is leaving and going on there.
Well, if you're going to leave me, then that's fair enough, I suppose. But after I thought such a long and arduous friendship and such a long time that we've been talking to each other on the radio over all these months, I'm just shocked that you could just walk out like that.
I have spoken to you yesterday. Got the gang and one. And disappeared off the bed with his eyes on the bed. So I wish you can please. And you want to leave the island. And W won't be on people. Bye.
Bye-bye, Charlie.
Jay, can you still hear Mikey?
Can you still hear me, Jay? Over? Oh, Jay's disappeared on me, Dave.
Oh dear, he's replying, right?
Charlie's okay and you're okay.
That's fine, Charlie.
I can hear everybody.
Oh, Andy's okay as well.
You know, Andy, something strange has happened.
What was that?
Well, last night Colin went last. You disappeared with me sort of about third to last, and then Colin was definitely at the last station. Now tonight, I can hear Mikey fine, Jay fine, and you fine.
Well, it's no one.
Great evening tonight, Jay. What a shame you didn't get on. That lad in Worthing. I wanted to check your ground wave with him. His name was Rick. The fan was really cooking, you know, it was about 9:30. Mikey didn't materialise. Colin called in and then he said, oh, my phone's ringing, I'll be back in a minute. He never returned. Yeah, I've been over to Worthing. She wanted something in Wilco's, and we ended up at Bookman's Pub. Came back through Lancing, we did Carroll's Cap for a little walk there, and then it was back home. It was low tide, wasn't it, around 4 o'clock? Have we gone, Andy? Well done, Andy. Yeah, you're still holding up very well. That's each Colin, wasn't it? say he'd come back when he's on the phone and he doesn't. Serves you right, Colin. Hello, Neil. Yeah, good to hear, mate. I think they've closed down on Top End. Oh yeah, you don't want to be catching that. Bless you, Neil. Thank you, sir. For those who couldn't hear Neil, it was Neil calling in to wish you all the best. Thank you. Right, Andy, I think I'm going to call it a day. Are you going, Dave? Good luck to you, Andy. Don't forget we're on sort of mid-evening, by the way, Andy. You get floated around the band. Usually up above about 3.74. Above 3.74. That's if you're around the radio. About 9 o'clock.
Okay, good night, Dave. Good night, Andrew. Don't know who else wants to stay. This is DG1YHA, and I'm not tired.
Good night, Charlie.
Good night, Mikey.
Good night, yes. It was a lovely day here today. The sun was shining. It was really hot. I only went out not to get food. I went to a big departmental store here called Morrison's. And I went to get 2 rose bushes for my garden. And then I came straight home and put them in the garden. Over.
Okay, well done. Yeah, it's bitter cold over here. We have sunshine pure, but temperatures roughly 15 degrees and a very harsh, cold, nippy wind. Oh, who's that? Very faint. Go again. Oh, okay, thank you. I can hardly hear them. Oh. Yeah, my noise level is too high. I can hear them, but not enough to understand them. Yeah. Okay, fine. Good night, sir. This is DG1YHA on the other side of the channel.
Yes, it's DG1YHA by the viaduct.
No, I haven't bought it.
No, I mean near the viaduct.
Yes. By the viaduct. No, I haven't bought it. Yeah. I have terrible RF in my shack. I can hear my own voice coming out of the transformer. I don't know what that is, but must be a terrible mismatch between me and my antenna.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to shoot off, Charlie, so I'll catch you all later. Cheers to you. 73
Yeah, right. Okay, good night, sir. And I would jump over to 160 meters. Maybe somebody is available on that frequency band. Good night. BG1YHA. Bye-bye.
the lighter version of it, but I found it up here, but now I got the dark stuff coming. Remember that in California a couple of years ago when we were out there?
So I'm getting it. You see these pictures on the news of people out in the parks and, not keeping no social distancing. And, yeah, it just annoys me because, not that we wouldn't have had a lockdown, but it might not have been as severe if people had listened. They had the chance to listen to the advice they were given. They had the chance, and fair enough, the majority of people did. I certainly did. But yeah, some people just don't like to listen. To get people like that. I mean, my mum and dad have a cafe. They've had to walk away from it, until this is all over there. But, yeah, I only got a job at the co-op 4 weeks ago. I think it was just after they announced that you had to, it was just after they announced that they were going to tell the vulnerable to self-isolate there. That's when it was. So it was before it got really bad. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm just starting work really. 19, was in college last year, worked for a few months and was out of employment for another few months, and I'm in the co-op now. So it's a 6-month temporary contract, but I hope to get kept on full time, to be honest, even though the travel, but I enjoy the work, it's quite good. And getting holidays for not very much work there, Chris, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I enjoy amateur radio as well. Recently joined the yacht group, the young amateur radio guys. I can't remember what the exact thing is, but they have a node on it, have a Echo Link server. So I spoke with a few of them guys on there. Quite good. Yeah, my dad's a Mike Zero, that's how I got into it. He's been licensed for 15 years. So I've watched him as I've grown up. Radio, always been interested.
Timeout.
Sorry, I do believe I timed out there, Chris. I have a habit of doing this. I keep forgetting the timeout. But I was able to take my exam at the Kentucky club and pass the foundation first time, luckily. I was quite apprehensive when I went in because I'd taken a mock paper in the club just before I went for the exam, and I failed it by about 5 marks there, Chris. But I managed to go in and do the real thing there. That was about a year ago now. 2 years in September there, Chris. I'll pass it back to you. Golf 6, Kilo India Alpha, Mike 6, Papa November Hotel. Golf 6, Kilo India Alpha. Are you still there, Chris? Mike 6, Papa November Hotel. Hotel. You still there, Chris?
Okay, Golf 6 Kilo India Alpha calling. Over.
Roger, Roger. So was that you there, Chris? Sorry, I didn't catch the call there. Might have well been Mike 6 Papa November Hotel.
This is Golf 6 Kilo India Alpha. Are you receiving? Over.
Roger, Roger, Chris. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. If your internet disconnected there, but yeah, I'll pass it back to you there, Chris. I don't know if you heard my last transmission there or not. I actually managed to time out, which I have a bad habit of doing on these servers. Golf 6 Kilo India Alpha, Mike 6 Papa November Hotel.
You know, for some reason things are breaking up. I don't know why. So I don't know if the internet's being a bit flaky or something. So I think probably the best thing to do is maybe call it a day or a night before it all falls down altogether on us. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to wish you best surgeries. I'm going to go and get a bit of kippies. It's already 2:30 in the morning. As things are playing up a bit at this end. So I shall wish you best 73s, and I'll listen for any filed, and then I think we're going to get off the bed.
Roger, Roger, Chris. Yeah, I was noticing a lot of that breaking up. I don't know if it's your internet or me. If I'm breaking up, it might well be my internet. My internet can sometimes be a bit temperamental, let's say there, Chris. But thank you very much, GSO. I hope to speak to you again further down the road. And stay safe. Golf 6 Kilo India Alpha, Mike 6 Papa November Hotel.
Surgery 6 KIA clear. All the best.
So if you walk past, you can have a good rubberneck. Because I basically am a nosy soul. Well, there you are. Anyway, there it is. Dominic Raab has said there will be no business as usual with China after this. Fine words, especially if said with a puffed up chest. But when a country's run on the basis of, never mind the quality, feel the width, it's kind of impossible to ignore China, isn't it? Really. Our NHS staff don't have enough PPE equipment even now because we had to buy the cheapest, and that meant China, and delivery has faltered. China learnt at the feet of the British Empire as we bullied the world and stole its resources. China then watched America overtake us and how it now uses its economic might to bully the world into submission. China is the second richest nation on earth, and despite the 8% downturn in its economy over the last few months, it will soon be number one, and they're already practicing being the top dog bully. One day, maybe a generation from now, but one day we will rule the day at buying their cheap stuff, just as the NHS is now. But that's all for the future. The problem now is, when do we get the kids back to school? Nobody knows, except perhaps Chuck Berry.
Up in the morning and out to school. teacher is teaching the golden rule.
Yeah.
Places like that, and we just literally overnight stopped making things, and the engineer, like, who was on the job later on, he actually said to me, he said, I'll guarantee you we'll regret this in a few years. Oh, no, all right, well, we're probably 40 years down the line now, but that's the problem. We're exposed now. We're desperate because them industries all went. And there's still some there knocking about, but not enough. And it just brought it home this weekend, seeing the news that we're struggling now to get these items.
But the trouble is, you see, didn't we all... I mean, it's easy to blame governments and others, but aren't we to blame for insisting that everything has to be cheap?
Well, yeah, that was what it was all about, the money, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I remember... Everybody knows this, so I'm not picking on them, but Marks and Spencer's, all their clothing used to be made in Britain.
It did.
And I believe Marks and Spencer's would still have all their clothing made in Britain if it wasn't for the fact that no one would buy it because it'd be twice the price of other retailers' clothing.
Well, you say that, but it was, and Woolworths and all them, and it were quality. The thing was with them companies, the garments, the merchandise were quality, and then we traded that off to get a cheap price. But if you look at the prices we're paying now, we're paying more than that anyway now.
Are we?
We've only lined the pockets of the shareholders.
Well, that's all we ever did. That's what business does. There's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong is whether we have a consequence of that. I mean, if it wasn't for the shareholders, it wouldn't be a business, and if it wasn't a business, we wouldn't have any clothes. I mean, when you were working in the textile industry, who the hell do you think was getting the profits from that company? It wasn't you.
Well,
so that's the nature.
Then, weren't they, as well? You know.
Well, they were independent, but they were still owned by somebody.
Yeah, but I think now I'd like. We used to get his jumpers from Scotland, proper Shetland wool and all that, proper gear, you know, and they were dearish then, but you'd be happy in the knowledge paying a couple of quid extra that you're getting quality. You know,
but nobody does that anymore. The market moved away from that, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you can go into a supermarket now and buy clothing for considerably less than you were paying in the 70s.
Yeah, and it's
which is
less
crazy
quality, isn't it, Alan? Let's be honest.
Yeah, but people don't seem to care.
No.
You know, you buy a T-shirt, you wear it 10 times. I never wear T-shirts. You buy a T-shirt, you wear it 10 times, you chuck it away, you buy another. At the end of the year, you might have bought 10 T-shirts. It still costs you less than one in the old style of purchase, as it were. Anyway, there we go. You're dead right, though. We are we're reliant on foreign companies for stuff that we need.
You know, the second one, sorry, let's quickly second point.
Go on.
I was just telling your colleague there about, you know, I've seen a clap for last 3 or 4 Thursdays now, whatever. But I'm happy now to clap for the supermarket staff now and people like that, the bin men who are shifting the bins, and because they're all key workers. Yeah. You know, and we're paying all that attention to NHS staff. You know, we've seen people making songs and dancing, nurses dancing all week and what have you, and it's all very nice. But ultimately, that's you go in that profession. There was always a chance that this could happen.
Yeah.
You know yourself. You've been in forces. If there's a war, off you go. You're going. That's what you train for. So you know, let's tone it down a bit. I think now.
Tone it down.
Well, let's let them get on with it. The job.
I suppose the difference between, and I'm not diminishing them, because without the dustbin personnel, we're knackered. Without the street cleaners, we're knackered. Without the, milkman, the ordinary Joe Bloke.
And what have you, the firemen, yeah.
But the difference is that the nursing staff now and other hospital staff are actually putting their lives at risk to do their jobs. And whilst they would have expected in a crisis to work hard, long hours and the rest of it, it's not really a job. You don't go into nursing and say, well, this might cost me my life, do you?
Well, you don't, but you're born to nurse. You're born with empathy, aren't you? You can't. Don't matter how many books you read at college, university. If you want to care for somebody, you care for them. And like, in the old days, that the old Florence Nightingale and all that bit. That's how it were. There was always a possibility you could catch something or whatever. It's
but
occupational hazard.
But that is substantially increased in the current time.
Absolutely,
particularly as the health service that you, as an employee, know and love, isn't able, on some occasions, to provide you with the equipment you need to do your job to keep you safe. I mean, you don't send a fireman into a firefight without a hose pipe and the helmet and the clothing and the wellies and all that. You just don't. You don't send a soldier to fight without a gun and without a tin hat and without the body armour. You don't send a police officer out without a stab vest. But you're sending nurses and other health professionals into wards where they don't have the right protective clothing and they could catch a fatal disease. I mean, surely that's a little different, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's just that with it being in the press a lot recently, and and then even the old guy who's raised 20 million, fantastic. But that's shame.
I think it's about 50 million now, rather ludicrously.
He's done a fantastic job.
You thought he was going to raise $1,000.
I wish I'd set out to do that. Yeah, a long time ago.
Anyway, Paul, it's good to talk to you, mate. Thank you very much.
Lot, mate.
Jacob's new. How do Jacob?
Hi, Alan.
Hiya.
I've been doing my paving outside my house, getting the weeds out, the cracks in the stone.
Right.
I had a look. So it looked really good when I've finished it, and I looked at my next door neighbour's one. They've got the same stone and everything, and they've actually jet washed it and put sand on top, but not got the weed out.
Oh dear.
And it's just not the same, and you just think to yourself, it's the common sense of some people. Some people have got it.
Yeah, I must admit I've not done our patio yet.
Yeah.
I kind of like the stuff growing between the stones, really. I think it looks quite, until it turns into dandelions a foot high, then it doesn't look quite so good.
No. Have you been working from home then?
Yes, still am. I'm sat at home now. It's rather nice.
Yeah. I suppose it's comfortable.
It's reasonably comfortable. I mean, I'm not in an armchair. I'm in my office chair.
Yeah.
But it's all right.
Yeah.
Good on you, Jacob. Lovely to talk to you. Keep up with the weeding. How do Keith?
Hello. I watched Pointless, Cock-Ups on Pointless. 10 years of Cock-Ups. And I've had more entertainment in the last 25 minutes from this programme than 10 years of Pointless.
Well, cock-ups are always interesting, I'll grant you.
Yes. Anyway, another little thing. If you put a plank in a hatchback car, and slam the hatchback shut, and the plank goes through the windscreen, is that total negligence, or what would you say?
I can answer this with personal experience.
Oh,
I went to IKEA and bought a wardrobe, a long wardrobe, a tall wardrobe, but it was long when it was flat pack, and I put it in my car, and I rested it on the passenger seat and pushed it up against the windscreen, and then I tried to shut the door. The rear door, the boot lid, I suppose you'd call it, but it's a car with a hatchback. I tried to shut the hatchback and it wouldn't shut, so I slammed it shut and it pushed the windscreen out of the rubber at the front.
Oh, so whose fault is it in that instance?
The idiot that shut the door.
Right, no comment.
Or narrow it down more precisely, mine. But every cloud's got a silver lining. My wife laughed for an hour. So, you know.
I'm laughing now.
Yes, I don't blame you. I laughed once I'd finally got the bloody thing mended for the 80 quid, whatever it cost. Dear God, I got one of them blokes that comes round, you know, with a big van and a little tent and everything, and he had it done in 10 minutes. And he said, that'll be 80 quid. I said, I'm insured. He said, you're not insured for that, which is fair enough.
Yes, very good, Alan. See you then.
Thank you very much. What a joy it is to be reminded of one's own stupidity. How do, Eileen?
Hello, Alan.
Hello there.
Hi, darling. About the Throwaway Society.
Yeah.
Another further thing is that when the hospital started to have throwaway garments, it put the laundries out of work, didn't it? They all used to have their own laundries, steam-cleaned laundries.
Well,
anyway,
I don't know whether it put them out of work. The hospitals still use a tremendous amount of laundry, as it were, because all the bedding and pillowcases and all of that. But certainly the gowns that the nurses and other clinical staff wear, I think even they're cleaned. I mean, scrubs are cleaned, but yes, they do cover their. They use plastic aprons, which are throwaway. But in the past they didn't even use that. They just got on with it, and there'd be blood from one patient on the clothing, and then they'd put a new pair of gloves on and go, and there'd be blood from the next person on the clothing. And now, of course, they use plastic throwaway covers, which is more hygienic.
One other thing I thought of, I don't know whether ultraviolet light would kill this coronavirus. They could put these throwaway ones through that, surely.
Possibly. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, and they don't have the ultraviolet light around to do it. But the whole idea of them is that they are throwaway. It might cost more to get ultraviolet light to clean them than it does to replace them, because they're only coppers each.
Yeah. A few years ago, well, quite a lot of years ago, when Jack Straw was in, he came to my house husting for votes, and he asked me about war. And he said, where did I think the next war would be? And I said, Middle East, and it shocked him a bit. He said, why would you say that? I said, well, they're always been volatile there, warring each other, pinching their women and their water for watering holes. And he says, what about China? And I said, well, I think they'd have more sense. I said, they'll do it economically. And it's happening now.
It's happening now. The Middle East is still aflame, and China's doing everybody over economically. Yeah. Eileen, you are you are Gypsy Rosie Lee in disguise, I think. Good to talk to you, Eileen. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. You're going to join us, you can, from anywhere you are in the United Kingdom. The number is 0800 218
Hello, Alan. I've got a bee in my bonnet.
Right.
What it is about 3 callers back, the gentleman, if I can call him one, was going on about, let it rest now about the NHS and all these key workers, and they shouldn't get this praise, etc., because they're not the only one that's, in line. They are the front workers and the ambulance people. Firemen are not doing their job. Police are not doing the nurse's job or the ambulance job. The people that are in the, should we say, first aid, in the recovery type thing, they're the ones that are doing the job. You can't compare a dustbin person to a nurse. A nurse actually trains to do what she's doing, they're doing, I should say, he, she. I used to be in the shop business. It's easy. You just press a few buttons or scan it down now. We used to do the old-fashioned way where you have to press in the numbers on the till. All you have to do is scan it with that thing, and it's done. But dustbin men, I know they're sitting in the cab most of the times, probably. All they have to do is wheel the bin up to the lorry, and the lorry does the rest. It's not like the old days where they have to hump it and then toss it in themselves. A nurse is needed. where will we be without them? More coronavirus problems, more deaths.
Where would we be without the dustbin persons?
I take most of my rubbish up to, to the skips. You know, the disposable things. Because some of them I can't put in a bin. So what's the point of throwing them in the landfill when I could put them in one of theirs, etc., etc.? I'm not bragging.
Well, that's all right. Recycling is a jolly good thing, but most
anybody could be a dustbin man.
That may be so, but almost anybody can be a nurse. Certainly
no, you
anybody.
have to train. You should know, Alan. You have to train.
Certainly anybody, and I don't diminish the job in any way, but anyone can be a hospital porter.
Well, I'm putting the porters down. We were talking about nurses and ambulances.
I'm not saying you were putting them down, but when the applause takes place on Thursday evenings, it's for the NHS staff. It's not just for the trained.
It was meant to be, and now it's gone further. Shop assistants, dustbin men, mud sweepers. You know, anybody.
About the people who are in the front line, keeping our society going, whilst you and me hide at home.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, you shouldn't take them lightly, because a dustbin man cannot do a nurse's job. Nor can a cashier do a nurse's job. They go into doing it, to hopefully help people, but they didn't bank on this. Sure, they didn't bank on this. And when we had the AIDS epidemic, they're more looked after then than they are now, in a way, because when they used to have to worry about getting pricked with a needle after they took it out of somebody, or somebody, coughed on them, etc.
Well, Mandy, let me tell you, they still have to worry about needle pricks, but good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. How do Gary?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Is police supplies working tonight?
I have no idea. How would I know?
How come you mentioned the word bloody on the phone?
It must have been because I felt like.
She was right on that woman, what just came on.
Well, that's your view.
About criticising nurse. My girlfriend who fell out with me is a nurse.
I don't think the lady that was just on was criticising nurses. I think she was doing the exact opposite.
She made me laugh, though, but I disagree with her.
What was it you disagreed with?
About bin men. What's bin men got to do with nurses?
I think that's the point she was making. So I think you agreed with her, not disagreed with her.
I was disagreeing.
Right, well, you disagree while simultaneously holding the same view, which is an interesting position.
Can I ask you a question? Why do homeless people get treated better than people who are not homeless?
As someone who works with homeless people, I think your question is ill-founded. I think homeless people are treated appallingly in our society.
No, I mean, they're treated better by the police more than they are with people who are not homeless. I realised that since the lockdown's been on.
Do you have any example of the luxury treatment that the homeless receive from Her Majesty's Constabulary?
I notice when I've been out for a walk, there's a beggar in town who's begging for money and not staying 2 metres apart. And that, against the law, the police should pull up, but they're not. And
have you seen the police see him not maintaining the 6 foot distance?
It's a girl. I noticed she's not.
Okay, let me try the question again, and thank you for correcting me on the gender. But have you seen the police ignoring her?
Yes, because I've been in touch with the police and told the police before.
No. Listen to the question. It's a bit more specific than that. you say that the police just ignore it. Have you witnessed a police officer being in the vicinity and ignoring it?
Yes.
Okay.
And I noticed she's not keeping 2 meters distance.
Yes, you said that, and that's why I asked you the secondary question. Anyway, Gary, have a good night. I must make myself homeless because I really would like to be treated nice by the cops. How do, Malcolm?
How do, yes. I wanted to talk a bit about a vaccine for coronavirus. I'm picking up on the story that the Daily Mail has got. I'm just reading a bit of vaccine, and it's saying it's unlikely we'll be able to eradicate this virus. The vaccine has not yet been proved effective, but to save time, work to manufacture it has already started. And then we've got this, let's see what the quote is from Professor Sarah Gilbert, who has led the vaccine development programme at the University of Oxford, said she had, quote, a high degree of confidence in it. And there's a claim that it has maybe a better chance than any of the others. But that isn't good enough if you're going to go into the media and say that you're going to have one ready by September, when the World Health Organization said that it would take at least 12 months to 18 months if it's possible to develop a vaccine at all.
So what's your point then, Malcolm, apart from all the quotes from various others? What's your point?
Well, my point is twofold. Firstly, that just because a professor from an Oxford university says that they have, quote, a high degree of confidence in something that they haven't actually proved works means very little. And my other point is that we should really have had, though Manchester University and Liverpool University, Northern University, since we're supposed to be rebalancing the UK, and Glasgow and Edinburgh University working on vaccines, and they should receive a similar amount of money, if not more.
Do you know that they are not?
I don't know that, but
okay.
But the media is telling us that that only Imperial College and Oxford are at the point where they claim that they might be able to go to volunteers.
So am I correct? Am I correct in what I've just heard you say, that you think that the universities, the northern universities, should be working on a vaccine, but you don't know that they aren't? Is that what you just said?
Effectively, yes, but they're not being given. Yeah, I mean, I take your point, but they're not. The very fact that the Oxbridge guys and Imperial are going to supposedly making claims in the media and going for volunteers, claiming that they've got something when they may well not have anything. That's the problem.
They can only find out if they've got something by the use of those volunteers. They will never know until it has been tested, and it'll have to be tested on volunteers because we don't do it compulsorily in this country, and they believe they are ready at that stage.
Yeah.
So it may well be that tomorrow morning a northern university will say the same thing, but you don't know, and I certainly don't.
Well, I take your point, but I think that there has been a bias within the media towards the assumption that because some professor makes what, in my view, is a completely false claim, that they will have a working vaccine.
Well, they haven't said that they will, so it's not a false claim.
No, this Sarah Gilbert has been quoted in the Times as saying that by September we'll have giving a false claim, in my view. But we'll see whether I'm right.
Your view is irrelevant. All we have to do is deal with what they have claimed. And they have claimed that they have a vaccine that they think is now ready to be tested, and they're seeking volunteers. And they've also said we are so confident of its success that we may go into production before we've got the full outcome. The wisdom of that is...
Yes.
debatable, but the wisdom is, if you wait until you've got the absolute copper bottom proof and then start making it, you will be at the point of having it available later than if you start making it now and then find out it doesn't work and have to chuck it away.
Well, I just think that it was just from the way that things were reported. I saw this as an example of what I might describe as it's a rare phrase you'll hear in the media, but an example from what I would call an Oxbridge duffer. I'm not saying they're all duffers, but that was one when that claim was made.
I'm sure she speaks very highly of you, Malcolm. Do have a good night. How do Dean?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Dean.
I'm just wondering if any listeners have had an out-of-body experience.
Have you?
Yeah, when I was a young kid. I had a house fire, and I died 4 times. I'm just wondering if anyone else has had it.
Well, when you say you died 4 times...
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
When you say you died 4 times, that doesn't mean you had an out-of-body experience. That just means you died and were revived. So what was the out-of-body experience?
Well, I see myself next to myself on a hospital bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Dean, I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to play a record and then I'll come back to you. The record I'm going to play is Teenage Kicks. I will come back to you, Dean. That must have been... Yeah, you are, yeah. That must have been extraordinary.
Yeah, it was horrible, horrific. I also seen a figure of an old man with white scruffy hair and a beard. I'm just wondering if it was God or Satan.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
God is often depicted with white long hair, the proper God rather than Jesus.
Yeah.
But I'm not altogether sure whether Satan ever has been.
Yeah. My man calls it Shaitan. He's Muslim, and he said
calls it what?
Shaitan.
He says it was Satan. Shaitan. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's weird.
Right. Well, weird indeed. There you go.
I'll
anyway, out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do. So Dean has had an out-of-body experience. Have you? 0800 218 2255. I have not, but then I wouldn't. I think you have to believe in it to have it, don't you? I don't know, you tell me. There was a photograph, rather disturbing photograph, in Saturday's Daily Mail of about 30 protesters outside the state headquarters of Michigan, USA. They were protesting against the lockdown, the removal of their freedoms. Indeed, only just a few moments ago, we had a gentleman doing much the same thing. He said he drove to Anglesey and to elsewhere, ignoring the lockdown altogether, saying it was an unreasonable curtailment of his freedom. Well, there was a photograph, as I say, of these people, all of them men, by the way, there wasn't a woman amongst them, protesting against the lockdown. All men, all 30 odd of them, and almost all armed. And not just armed, but had their weapons in holsters, their revolvers in holsters, but, well, they're not revolvers, are they? But they're handguns in holsters, but their jackets hooked up so that everyone could see them. Look at me, I'm packing. Some of them even had small machine guns. Only in America. The most disturbing thing I found was that almost a quarter of them were ginger. I know. I don't know what, if anything, that tells us. But as a no longer ginger, I shuddered a little. So are gingers more likely to protest against the government? Surely not. I'll do Harvey.
Hey, Alan. I'd like to talk about...
Hello, Harvey. Hello there.
I'd like to talk about kickers. Can you hear me?
Teachers? Yes, I can, yeah.
I was just wondering, with the coronavirus going on, I was just wondering whether locksmiths are considered as key workers.
Oh, I don't know. We'll find out. Harvey, I'm going to have to interrupt you now. We keep having a minor problem, which we will resolve eventually, but I'm going to come back to you. But we're going to play another record, presumably Nat King Cole, Let's Face the Music. And the virus is now in a different species and doesn't... I mean, they're not knowledgeable, but hasn't the ability to control itself, because a virus's job is simply to replicate, which is what it does. And it does it extremely well in humans. So in the environment, if you mean the environment in terms of an animal, then yeah, okay. But if you mean it was in the sky, you know, that's a bit harder to believe.
But what I mean is there's only a few reasons, you know, they come from a meteorite with germs from another planet. It was started in a lab, deliberately released or not, accidentally released, or it started in the environment, or it started in a farm, a factory farm. There's only so many, and people see there's a lot of conspiracies. People are desperate for it to be. I can see, you know, people online are desperate to believe that the Chinese have done it on purpose. Or you got this guy. You were on about Michigan the other day, or before, about this place in America where they're all demonstrating. You got this guy riding around, Alex Jones, saying it's a communist conspiracy, and he's like Oswald Mosley in this big black vehicle, and he's right, and he's insane. The man is insane. He's absolutely.
Well, yeah, but you know, I mean, where would we be if the world didn't have crackpots in it? It'd be a tedious place. But they don't offer much to the debate about the virus, other than a matter of fun and joy.
Well, they're looking at the map of America, a lot of these people are going, well, it's concentrated in New York, Florida, and California, but the states in the middle, you know, there's hardly anyone. Well, that's how a virus works. A virus goes to the most concentrated areas, but these people have got the brains to work out.
Well, the virus doesn't go anywhere. It's taken there. The virus doesn't go anywhere. Viruses don't travel about the world on buses and trains. They're carried somewhere. They're carried in the host.
But all these Midwestern places where they're all religious, they're all saying, look, we haven't got anything, you know, because we're protected by Jesus, and we've got the blood of Jesus. But a virus, if you were in a big country like America, it's about 38 times the size of Britain. It's not going to spread as quickly as a country like Britain or Italy, because it's a massive country and you've got less, you know, significantly less density per square mile. You know, hundreds of times less density. And it's like people are thatching around for the conspiracy that it's the government's not. The Chinese are not, you know, I'm not a massive fan of the Chinese government by any means, but the idea that they'd release a virus that could potentially, if they didn't know what they were doing, wipe out about 100 million or 200 million of their own people just to bring down America and Europe, I just think the whole thing's insane. And, you know, America is going to get hammered because they live in a dream world, and they don't listen to logical people. They're going to get hammered. The country is going to be. Well, they're
already getting hammered. To be fair to them, and the idea that it's not a conspiracy is not provable. And to say that the Chinese wouldn't test the virus on their own people, well, we tested the nuclear bomb on our own people.
Yeah, but a bomb's not going to spread, is it? Like a virus, you know what?
Well, it kind of did. It did. It caused terrible diseases in the men who had to witness it and were given no choice. And those men had later horrible, slow, painful deaths. So.
But you've got the most powerful nation on earth presidents listening to these religious, you know, playing lip service to these people who are demonstrating on the street saying, you know, we don't want a thing of the lockdown, we want to do what we want and breathe in your face if we want. And it's just antisocial. You know what I mean? Right. And you'll pay a heavy price for it.
We shall see. Simon, thank you very much. Keith's new. How did Keith? Hello, Keith.
Hello, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, well, happened to be on my daily exercise today, and at Stanley Park, may I say, and I looked up and I seen 4 satellites, 3 together and 1 trailing behind, and I was just wondering why were they that close to each other, travelling at the same time. I just thought, with all this 5G stuff going on.
When you say satellites, do you want to be a little more...
Like stars,
Pardon?
the way stars are, but like they were moving, 3 in a straight line, and 1 trailing behind.
So you're exercising at night?
Daily exercises are about 8 o'clock.
Well, it's light at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
You don't normally see satellites in the daylight.
No, it was dark. It was about 8 o'clock. It was getting dark. I could see the stars and the satellites in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So there are 3 in a line. I've lost you. You seem to be talking away from the microphone. You'll have to come back and talk to the mic for me to hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
I can, yes. Yeah. So describe it again. So you saw 4 satellites, or at least you saw 4 lights in the sky, I presume.
Yeah. Similar to stars, but they were moving, but I knew they were satellites.
Indeed.
There was
right,
3,
so there's three in a line and 1 trailing behind.
Measured out, and then 1 trailing behind it. And I was just wondering, did anyone else happen to see it?
Have you considered that it might have been a plane with a light at the end of one wing?
No.
How do you know?
How do you know? It was just stars. What stars? Like circle.
Well, stars. Star looks like a dot of light, doesn't it? Really?
Yes, but a plane has a blue light on one side and a red light on the other, and this was.
Well, this one might have put the wrong lights on it. It might have had a white light either side and 1 in the middle and 1 at the back on the tail, mightn't it?
Oh, no, I seen what I seen. It wasn't a plane. It was 3 satellites and 1 behind it, and I was just thinking.
And 1 behind it.
With this stuff going on, was it stuff with 5G? You may have heard the things going on about the 5G.
I've heard of 5G. Yes, I could name you 1,000 idiots. What's that got to do with satellites? I'm a bit confused now.
I'm just thinking, like, is it maybe someone watching down on us? Like, why is the 3 satellites together? Why wouldn't it just be 1? If it could see so much pictures of the Earth on one side,
perhaps they've come from 3 different planets. Well, 4 different planets. They just happen to arrive at the same time.
Well, I presume you believe in space and the solar system, and I certainly believe that.
Well, it's hard. It's hard not to believe in the solar system, isn't it? Really, you can't not believe in the solar system.
Yeah, but I believe there's other life form. There can't just be us on the planet. There's other
on the planet. When you say on the planet,
in the solar system. Sorry.
In the solar system, yeah. So, what do you believe these 4 satellites were?
Well, you mightn't take me for granted here, but I sort of believe it's sort of government watching down on us, seeing like sort of what we're doing. Like.
Well, why would they have 4? Would it be 4 different governments, perhaps?
That's the question I'm asking you. Why would it be 4?
I don't know. I didn't see them, but certainly there are satellites looking down on us, and they are watching us, as it were, in that.
Yeah.
Often you will see that such and such a thing has happened, and then you'll see on the news the satellite picture, won't you?
See the satellite picture, yeah, but. The thing I'm trying to get at is, like, why was the 3, but then why was the 1 trailing so far behind it? If you wanted 4 there, why wouldn't they all be in sequence?
Well, I don't know.
No, I'm just seeing if you believe in the stuff I'm saying. Like, would you believe that it's something else, but that it's not just satellites? Would you believe it's something to do with the whale?
I don't have any clue at all. I might have had a better clue if I saw it, but I just think, I don't know. You describe 3 satellites in a line with 1 behind, presumably following the middle one.
Yeah. I'm just
in a sort of forming what you might call a letter T.
Yeah, it sort of looked like, if you know what Orion's belt looked like. I
have no idea what Orion. I don't even know where Orion is.
Orion's belt is 3 stars together that don't move. They're sort of similar to that, but these moved across the planet.
And there were 4.
Yeah, and one
as
before.
opposed to 3. Yeah.
Yeah, but may I ask you like another question, going to another topic about this coronavirus?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I sort of believe some people think that it's man-made and it come from a laboratory and it's been spilled and it's contracted a lot across the whole planet. But I sort of believe it's all these things that the Chinese people neglecting animals and eating bad things that they shouldn't and spreading diseases. Just thinking what your view is on it.
Well, I've some trouble with your adjectives. Eating things that they shouldn't. I mean, they're entitled to eat whatever they want to eat. They have a different diet to us, but I mean, it's not unheard of for British people to eat wild animals. I mean, even the Queen eats deer and pheasant and hare and all that kind of crap. So we eat wild animals too. Now, we eat an awful lot of farmed animals, and they give us BSE and other diseases. And the Chinese have a culture of eating wild animals.
Well, bats has been into the equation all across social media.
Yeah, indeed they have. Yeah, they eat bats.
My question is,
and why not?
Why would you put a dead bat in a soup, and that makes you sort of get all the nutrients and stuff that you need? I just don't get it, to be honest.
Well, it depends on where you get your nutrients in the normal place. I mean, why is a bat less less nutritious than a bird?
Well, true, but I wouldn't know that, because if I knew it was healthy for you, I'd certainly have a bat in a bowl of soup.
You live in a culture where we don't eat bats. We're not even allowed to kill them. They're protected. You live in that culture. But that doesn't mean another culture that is different to ours is wrong, because they will look at ours and say, dear God, what are you doing eating that? I mean, half the population of India would look at us and say, you eat cows? What are you, monsters? Dear God.
Exactly.
So nations have different diets, and Chinese people eat bats, and after they've been eating them for centuries, we've now got a disease from them.
Well, can I ask you, where do you believe this coronavirus has come from? What do you think has caused this?
I think on the balance of probabilities, I think the story about somebody consuming an infected, probably not the right word, but a bat that had the virus, and then that person spread it rather rapidly throughout a tight-packed community. I think that is, for me, the most believable explanation put forward thus far.
Right. Hear me out on this. I sort of believe there's all bad in the world. I believe in China they have meat markets, and you probably don't want to hear it, they sort of neglect animals, and I'm just thinking that they have all these cages of different animals stacked up, and the top animal is dropping its feces to the bottom, and the bottom animal is eating that feces. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. It's perfectly reasonable.
And then these people are obviously killing these animals and eating that bottom animal, which has eaten the feces. So I'm thinking that's give them the disease to spread, because, who eats feces?
I've no idea. I don't think I ever have. I've certainly never done so knowingly. But yeah, I mean that's part of it. Possibly, I've no idea. I don't have.
When do you think this will stop and flatten out? Because it's a very scary thing. I mean, I'm only 24 and I've never heard. The last thing I heard was Ebola, and that didn't get far. So how long is this going to go on for?
Well, it got quite a long way. It just didn't arrive here as much as we were afraid it would. This is going to go on now forever.
Do you think, so when you say ever, do you mean it's
forever?
There's not constantly going to be a death toll of 500 per day.
No, there's not. You didn't ask that. Your question was how long will it go on for. It will go on forever, rather like German measles goes on forever, and chicken pox goes on forever. But we have viruses. We have vaccine to protect us against it. It doesn't eradicate it. It just is against it. And we will eventually get a vaccine that protects us against this. But it will exist forever.
Oh, yeah, I understand it will exist, but when do you think then it will go back to normal, shall we say?
Nobody knows.
Living life.
Nobody knows.
Well, yeah, I've heard
I think
3 weeks.
I think the exact. Well, no, the 3 weeks is that the legislation that created lockdown has to be reviewed by the government every 3 weeks. They've just done it last week, so it'll now be another 3 weeks before they do it again. But there's no suggestion or in either direction of what the outcome of that next meeting will be. No one's suggesting they know that on the 4th week from now we'll all be free, or the 4th week from now we'll all be still locked down. Nobody knows, and that will be reviewed when we get there.
That is a scary thing, but China, obviously, it come from Wuhan, China, and spread. China had no cases for 5 days. That's an estimate. Might be 5, might be more. Now they have discovered new cases, so they are where it's come from. They've obviously carried on doing what they shouldn't be doing. But if they knew that, why wouldn't they stop?
Well, we don't know what's happened in China. We do know that there is a suggestion that there are some newly infected people, and that's disturbing, and that will speak to some degree to how we come out of lockdown. But Keith, we'll have to wait and see. Good to talk to you, mate. Stefan's new. How do, Stefan?
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening, Stefan. What would you like to talk about, mate?
I've wondered for a long time, why is the Conservative Party known as the Tories?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Neither do I, and a vast of my friends. I mean, I'm 57 and I still don't know why they're called the Tories.
Neither do I. I'm looking it up now.
All right. Maybe your wonderful listeners might be able to help us.
They might be able to help. The term Tory, or loyalist, was used in the American Revolution for those who remained loyal to the British Crown. Since early in the 18th century, Tory had described those upholding the right of the King of Parliament. So I suppose the Tories are saying, or the Conservatives believe in the conservation of the monarchy and loyalty. So they got it from that, it would seem.
All right.
If anyone knows different, they'll ring in and tell us on 0800 218 2255. But until then, Stefan, that's the best we can do, mate.
Okay, God bless you. Thank you, Alan.
And yourself, 0800 218 2255. If you can improve on that, share it. We'll get to Neil and to Dave and to Leo as soon as we've enjoyed the Supremes.
The sound
of where we live.
And all the music you love.
Direction does it go in?
Right, there's a bright star, the brightest star in the sky. From my house, it's basically to the right. And I don't know whether that's north, east, south, or west and north. I don't know. But basically, it's been happening for quite some time, probably about a month now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And all these CB breakers, because I'm on CB myself, and I'm in Leyland, and I usually get updated with them.
So when you're in Leyland, because this might help us, when you're in Leyland and you see the International Space Station passing overhead in Leyland, is it going towards Preston or is it going towards?
No, it's coming. I would say it's coming from Preston, maybe heading towards the Bolton area. Which is like
that's all right. Yeah, I do. Yes, I know it well. That's the direction that Neil just described. The 40 or 50 satellites or lights in a line.
That's right, and it comes the same way all the time.
Right. Well, there we are. Dave, thank you very much indeed. And there was me thinking that CB radio would never be any damn use, and here it is being useful. How do Leo?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I got a phone call from a friend of mine at 9:30 tonight, and he said he was out in the garden looking towards Manchester, and sure enough, the 40 or 50 lights were there. So I went out, and I just caught the last sort of 4 all in a line. So being inquisitive, I started looking it up, and apparently the same thing happened in November and again in March. So I did a bit of research on the dangerous interweb, and it's Elon Musk's fault he launched what was called Satellite 60X in November. And it's 60 satellites, all in a line, and occasionally they do fly over, so that's what it was.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Well, that sounds more believable than the space station does, that.
Yeah, but we're not being invaded by Mars or anything like that, and it's no conspiracy theory, but yeah, it's Elon Musk and his project. I don't know what it's for, but there are 60 of them, and occasionally they fly over in a straight line.
I think it's to get Elon Musk in the paper, really. I don't know whether I don't know whether he has any other objective than that. Right, well, there you are.
That's what it was. Yeah, so we're not being invaded.
Thank you.
It's not conspiracy, and it's nothing to do with coronavirus or being watched or anything like that.
Well, I can't tell you how disappointing that is, Leo, but at least we've...
I'm sorry to spoil your night and everybody else's night, but yeah.
Well, there you are. It's an attack by Elon Musk. Good luck to the man. Thank you, Leo. 0800 218 2255. So there you are. Neil, I think it was, that asked us first of all, and also Keith a little earlier. So it was Keith first, then Neil, then Dave. And it's not the International Space Station, assuming that Leo's research is correct. It's Elon Musk's 60 satellites launched in a line. How do, Mike?
Warmest greetings.
Indeed.
There's a nice common factor between us this evening in that you're broadcasting from what amounts to your spare bedroom. I don't know whether yours is at the back or the front of the house. Since I've been doing this, the Braille part of this massive project I'm involved with, I seem to have purloined our spare room, the one we call Piney, because it's all pine furniture, and there seems to have been no objection from on high. Well, what I really wanted to talk to you about this evening, I hope incidentally that the telephone is as tolerable as it usually is, the one I use downstairs, yeah?
Seems all right so far.
This is good stuff. I wanted to talk to you about something you raised last week, handshaking and matters associated with that. Your views, of course, on handshaking are fairly well known. I have, without having realised it as such at the time, I've had the privilege of shaking hands with you.
Right.
It happened... It doesn't matter, the circumstances don't matter too greatly. After our friend Brian Johnston died, I got a piece in Chris Martin Jenkins' book about Summers Will Never Be the Same, and you invited me to the studio with Margie to talk to you about it, so we did, naturally enough. At the end of the broadcast, you just said, thanks for coming, shook hands, and away we went. And it was a bit of a shock to me a few months ago to hear your rather hard comments about handshaking and how you dislike it so intensely.
Mm.
Can I ask you this? What is the... I don't know how to put this. What is the... See, I'm big on handshaking. We'll come on to that in a moment or two. But what's the visual sign that you give that perhaps you don't really want to shake someone's hand, or it's not necessary, is it, or something, like that? I mean, I'd have thought it really weird if you hadn't shaken my hand when we left you.
I don't know that I have a sign. I've no idea.
But, I mean, there isn't a... What I'm trying to get from you, if you could help me, is there a visual convention?
I don't really understand the question.
Right. Well, if I have cause to thank anybody for something in a shop, or I'm really pleased about something, and it's time to sugar off, I just stick my hand out, and I've only been refused once in the whole of my lifetime. And I tend to use it as in some instances, as a sort of icebreaker. When I meet a young lady, for instance, and she has a particularly nice hand, I say, well, potentially you could be a wonderful touch Braille reader. You know what I mean?
Well, I try to be less patronising when I meet people, but never mind.
No, I don't think it is a matter of that. You've no idea. It's a very popular icebreaker to the start of a conversation.
Well, it may well be popular. I still think it's patronising and wouldn't use it.
Well, you don't have to because you're not a blindy.
That is true, but I still think it's patronising. So,
Okay, I'll just make a note of that.
If I'm working, and by that I mean if I'm being a BBC person,
yes,
and somebody sticks their hand out and I think it would offend them for me not to respond, then I respond. If I'm away from being a BBC person and just being me, I would ignore somebody sticking their hand out.
Oh, well, you've answered my early question, haven't you? Anyway, it was great. I hope we get back to it. I'm missing it very much. I don't know what other to say. I think you were also, it drifted into conversation when you were talking last week about the awful convention of cuddling. I think that's pretty awful, but as a public sort of thing, isn't it?
Hugging rather than cuddling, but hugging.
Oh, is it? Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Yes.
And that's the shoulder bump that men do, and I just think, what the hell is that for? There you go.
So the difference between a cuddle is going into a kissing session, but a hug is that round the shoulder?
There is a modern, in this country, for me, it's a modern convention of people giving each other a small hug when they meet, and whether they're strangers or meeting for the first time, and I find it utterly abominable and will not do it.
So your word for this is a hug. Is that around the shoulder job, or is it around the neck job?
Well, around the neck, strangulation. Well, indeed. I don't really know whether it's. I'm just trying to think how it happens. Yeah, it tends to be more shoulders. A cuddle is something that I would see you did in the privacy of a relationship, as it were.
Yes, of course.
But a hug is something entirely different, and it's a courtesy hug rather than an affectionate hug. So you meet someone and, you do that, they put their arm around their back and then they pat them on the shoulder from behind with their wrap round. Dear God almighty. Go away from me.
Well, it has been helpful. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I'll do Reg.
Hello. Just a quick question. Any idea what these gowns are made of that the people are running short of?
I think cotton. But I may be wrong. I haven't the faintest idea.
Yeah, well, I thought that. Now, once upon a time, hospitals, you used to work in the hospital, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, hospitals, I think, once upon a time, used to have laundries.
Yes, they did.
So, and I think they don't just throw all the sheets away off people's beds, I'm fairly certain.
Mm-hmm.
And the blankets, they get washed.
Well,
Why can't they wash the gowns?
Well, the gowns that they're talking about, they have insufficient of them, and the ones that they're looking for, the ones that they're having trouble getting in the main, are the throwaway ones, the plastic ones.
Yeah, but the ones they're showing on the telly sometimes are the blue ones that look like...
the scrubs, as they're called, which...
Yeah. They put them in bins and throw them away.
And maybe maybe they do wash them, but they haven't got enough, because they're using a lot more, because you see one patient and you have to change.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that. I don't profess to know. I was a psychiatric nurse. We just wore a sort of loose-fitting jacket that went over our shirt and the like.
Yeah, well, it was just a thought. I was seeing them all taking them off and sticking them in their little bins like they do with the sheets and blankets and stuff off patients' beds.
Well, I suspect those will go off to be washed. I don't think laundries are within the hospitals anymore. They tend to go out to contract, rather like the surgical instruments. They go out and they get autoclaved, I think it was called, elsewhere, and then they come back and they're delivered with. It used to have. They used to come in a package that was sealed with a piece of tape, and the tape had stripy lines on it at an angle. Now, I can't remember which way it was, but if the lines were still there, it wasn't sterile.
Yeah.
And if the lines had gone, then it was. It might be probably the other way round.
Yeah.
But you knew, and you thought, oh, hang on, that's not sterile, because it's not in a bag with the lines on it or whatever. But I don't know what it is now, but certainly they don't throw away all the instruments. Some of them are cleaned and reused. And I suspect that is the case with clothing as well.
Well, I would have thought so, but I say, in other words, if they'd had 1 million of them, then they still got 1 million. And they just want washing.
It depends on. I mean, I don't know is the simple answer.
Yeah.
And maybe someone will come on and explain it to me.
Yeah.
But it might be that the ordinary washing process, which you or I would use in a laundry if we were doing our laundry, probably could be such that it won't kill the virus or whatever, what the problem would be. I don't know.
Can I just add to that then? My wife is currently in a care home, right, being looked after because she's had pneumonia and whatever.
Yeah.
And I can go out there, pick her washing up and put it through my home washing machine, and they say that's perfectly safe to bring back. And they've got coronavirus in that care home.
Well, that's going to be for her exclusive use.
Yeah.
So if she didn't have a coronavirus when you take it away and wash it and bring it back, she won't have it then.
Well,
if she did have coronavirus and you take away, wash it, and the coronavirus is still on it, I doubt if it would be, but let's say it is, and you take it back, it's all right, because it'll only be her that's using it, and she's got it.
Well, she was tested as positive.
Well, I'm just saying that because it's for her exclusive use, it doesn't matter. Whereas a nurse has got to go, and a doctor and other medical professionals have got to go from one patient to another.
Yeah.
They need not. They have to have a process by which they don't convey one lot of stuff to another. Now, the plastic gowns they wear, the plastic covering they have, is disposed of, chucked away, because it's easier than changing your clothing all the time. So they just take that off, chuck it away, get another, get on.
Okay, Alan, thank you very much.
All right, mate. Good to talk to you. 0800 218 2255. He makes a good point, which is why I'm struggling for an answer. If they're short of scrubs, how are they short of scrubs? Because they put the scrubs on when they get to work. You know, the sort of overall they wear, that green overall, they put the scrubs on when they get to work. But when they're dealing with patients, they're protected with, even their scrubs are protected with a plastic coverage, as it were, a plastic apron or what have you. So why is there a shortage of scrubs? Perhaps I don't understand. How do, Susan?
Oh, hi. There's quite a lot going off in the skies tonight.
Oh, go on.
Well, the guy was right about the satellites, the low-orbiting satellites that came over about 9:30, and then they came back again about 11 o'clock. But there's also a meteor shower going on as well for about a week, which are sort of like shooting stars.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like cosmic dust that comes through and sort of...
It burns up, doesn't it, in the atmosphere?
Well, they're like shooting stars. And I was out a couple of nights ago on the patio in the freezing cold with a coat on and a blanket. Didn't see any.
Oh, well, such is the way, isn't it?
Got fed up. But you sort of have to look sort of northeast.
Right.
See them. And I just got fed up after about half an hour. I got cold and I came in, and but they're on for about a week.
Oh, well.
So, you know, I might try again, because it's you need to be out when it's a clear night to be able to see them.
Quite a sight, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I can remember seeing them years ago. Yeah, it is a sight, actually. And it's good if you can see them. But, you know, it's got to be a bit patient, really. And also, the International Space Station, I've seen that, and that comes over from west to east. comes over in an arc. So that's why the flat earthers don't sort of have any sort of, because if the Earth was flat, it would come back the same. It would come back. It wouldn't go round in an arc, would it? It would come back like a tennis ball would bounce off a wall. It would. When it goes over from west to east, if the Earth was flat and hit that ice wall we were talking about, it would come back east to west. But
well, it depends how high the wall goes.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure it's not going up to satellite height, which is however many miles.
It goes over in an arc. It goes over from west to east.
Yes, but it could go over from where... Even if the Earth was flat, and I'm not making the case, Susan, I'm not that mad yet, but even if the Earth was flat, or saucer shape, as some people say it is, you could still, if you get a saucer and hold it by the edge, and then get a marble, you can rotate the marble around the top and bottom, can't you? You can go right round the saucer. So if you were living on the top of the saucer and you saw the marble and it would go in a big arc, because it's travelling in a circle, it would go in a big arc, and then it would go past the end of the Earth, and then it'd go underneath the Earth, the saucer, and it would come all the way around, and then it'd go over the top again. And it could do that incessantly, couldn't it? So it would still be going over in an arc, even if the Earth was flat, which we both know it isn't, but the barn pots think it is.
Well, the flat earthers haven't been on for a long time. I'm just wondering.
No, they haven't.
I'm just wondering if they're blowing up all the 5G masts.
Well, they might be. Who knows? But the flat earthers, now that you've mentioned them, they'll be on tonight. You watch. But the other lot that haven't been on are the antivirus wallers.
Well, I'm wondering if when they get the vaccine for the coronavirus, are they sort of going to say, "Oh, I don't want it"? Are they going to be queuing up to get it?
We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Because I say, well, no, you can't have it because you don't believe in it. Oh.
You're crueler than even me, Susan. So when you go, they say, "Do you believe in it? Sign this form, else you're not having it." Marvellous idea. That'll teach the beggars, won't it?
We all need to be out on our patios tomorrow night with a blanket.
Right, well, that is the way forward.
Yeah.
My wife has never seen a shooting star.
Oh, hasn't she?
No.
Yeah, they were quite spectacular.
I know.
Yeah. Did you ever see Halley's Comet?
Yes, I did. And I also saw Hale Bopp. Do you remember Hale Bopp? Saw Halley's, but of course if you didn't see Halley's this time, you ain't going to see it for a very long time.
I'll tell you what it reminded me of. I suppose I can say it at this time of night because it's after the watershed. But it reminded me of a sperm.
Did it?
Halley's Comet. Wriggling, yeah. It sort of had it was the shape and it was like wriggling. And I thought, oh, it's like a sperm through a microscope.
Well, I don't know what to say to that, really. Perhaps we'll play one of my favourite records, which is the Monty Python team, and it's a song called "Every Sperm Is Sacred," which I like to play at every opportunity. Anyway, there you are. But you must look up Hale Bopp. It's and I can't remember. It must have been. Oh dear. What would it be? Crikey. Just trying to think when it last went over. 1997, I'm just looking it up now. Hale Bopp is a comet that was perhaps the most widely observed of the 20th century and one of the biggest seen for many decades. And 1995 before it became visible to the naked eye. And if you missed it, then that's okay. It is coming back. But not until the year 2533.
Oh, well, that lets me out then.
Me too, but only by a whisker.
Yeah, there's too much tarmac on the road, I'm afraid.
Anyway, there you are, the Comet Hale Bopp. It was, as I say, the one that was seen. I just acted as quizmaster for a fire brigade event And on the way home, I remembered that Hale Bopp, because I'd done an interview that morning, was going to be in the sky. And so I parked the car and looked for it, and there it was. And it was fantastic, because it was like you imagine a comet. So there's the big shiny bit, which is the comet itself, but it had an extremely long tail. So there was this great... Yeah, well, it didn't wiggle. Behave yourself. But it had this extremely long tail, so you were able to see it more easily. And it was absolutely fascinating. And it won't be back for 2,500 years. Extraordinary. Anyway, Susan, lovely to talk to you. And if you did give me and tempt me, so I'm going to play Every Sperm is Sacred by Monty Python. Good to talk to you, Susan. You might enjoy it. I wonder if the old girlfriend is listening.
I wonder if she is.
Would you like, if she rings in, would you like her to give you your number? and then she might come and haunt you. Great tale, mate. Okay, well,
all right.
Thank you very much indeed. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Join us, you can. Keith's new. Howdy, Keith.
Hello, Alan. I'm just ringing up at reference those lights in the sky, but the people before me now will probably give you most of the information.
Yeah.
And my information is it's a firm called Starlink, and it's a company creating internet access to the world. And they've put 300 up so far.
300?
40,000.
How much is it going to cost us to have the internet from someone that's got 40,000? How many did you say? Did you say 40,000?
Yeah, that's what the information I've got hold of anyhow. But
so how much is it going to cost us? I mean, the internet now with bits of wire costs a damn fortune. How much is it going to cost then? Good
I've
Lord.
no idea, but that's all the information I have. And if anybody wants to see it, they're going to be brighter tomorrow night, just before 10 o'clock tomorrow night.
Blimey.
And the best way to see them is look for Venus, the big bright star in the sky, and then turn left, just turn yourself left 90 degrees, then look up, and that's the best line of sight you'll get.
Right.
Them coming over you. And
what's it going to be like when there's 40,000 of them?
There's going to be in the end, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's atrocious.
I mean, it's like. I mean, what about all the debris in space?
Well, yes, there's loads of debris in space.
Yeah, I don't know how big they are, but they must be fairly big to be able to, see the reflection. It's the sun reflecting on them, what you see, actually. Yeah. But
well, that's just. I don't approve of that. I really don't.
No.
I think that's going to spoil our night sky, really.
Eventually it might do.
40,000 of them. I mean, okay, it's a big area, but bloody hell. And I thought satellites, anyway, for them to use, they remained in static orbit.
Well, it's the Earth probably what's moving, isn't it?
Well, yes, the Earth moves, but your Sky TV comes by satellite, but it doesn't fade out when it goes around the Earth. It just sits there above and is in what they call static orbit. So it is circulating the Earth at the same speed as the Earth is going round. So it actually, in respect to any given point on the globe, doesn't move. It just sits there.
Yeah,
it is moving, but it's in permanent static orbit.
Yeah. A good thing to look at on your internet is Heavens Above.
Right.
You get the International Space Station, and it'll tell you, they put a timetable on when it's coming over your area.
Right.
So you can watch it, but also you can see a planned route of it, and you can see which way around the Earth it's going, which country it's passing over. More so, it doesn't always pass over this way. It goes different directions, you see.
Right.
Yeah, but if you go on, it's Heavens Above, I think it is, and just look for ISS and just click onto that, and it gives you all the information.
Splendid, thank you.
If you put Chorley in, like I'm from Chorley, They put Charlie in.
Put Charlie in. You'll get a special answer just for you.
Yeah.
All right. Good on you, Keith. Thank you very much indeed. How do David?
Hello. I was going to say good evening. I think it's good morning now after 12, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good morning.
Yeah, I was going to say that was fascinating, that gentleman from Charlie. As soon as I heard the word Charlie, I thought it was the Charlie cake.
Ah, yes.
I must admit I'm quite partial to, particularly with custard on. Anyway.
Custard?
Wigs and Tories. As I remember from my study days, I'm going back 60-odd years, the Tories were the Conservatives, as we call them now. The Whigs, W-H-I-G-S, were the Labour people.
No, they were the Liberals. They were Liberals.
Oh.
The Whigs were the Liberals.
Already.
Well, the Labour didn't exist when we had Tories and Whigs.
My goodness. Well, I still passed my history O-level. And politics.
Right, well, you're probably right now and wrong, but as far as I recall the Whigs were the Liberals. There we go. Blah, blah, blah.
I've got to be careful how I phrase this. I don't have an arrogance about education, but I am reasonably well educated. Doesn't get the jobs in the house done, so I'm reminded every so often. But politics, economics and philosophy at university, yes. But that was a different scenario. I'm just trying to think now. You've got me thinking. Oh, no, well, hang on, it's coming back. You're probably right, because you have youth on your side.
Well, probably, yeah. It's not often I do, but on this occasion, judging by what you just said. Yeah, I'm just looking now. The Whigs and the Tories fought for power, if you like, between 1680 and 1850.
Oh.
So before then, the Labour Party didn't come into existence until way after that. So it's okay. Anyway, the Whigs were what we would call the Liberal Party these days.
Yes. I mean, even now, today, Liberals. What is a Liberal? Is it between a Tory or a Labour person, or is it in between?
It's best to imagine it, rather than imagine it as right and left, which is effectively what we're doing.
I understand that, yes.
It's better to imagine it as a triangle. Yeah. So there are three sort of elements. And of course, if you imagine it as a triangle or even a circle, you can then start to add other parties, such as the Greens and the like.
Yes, yes. We're becoming quite academic, aren't we?
Just for the moment, yeah, but it won't last. I say just for the moment, but it won't last.
Yes. But, well, yes. I mean, I think it's academic, in inverted commas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say thank you for your time and patience. And that's it.
Well,
that's very interesting about the satellites.
Wasn't it?
I have a telescope and I use it.
I have one, but I'm afraid I don't use it. It was bought for me as a present, and I never quite got the hang of it. And also, you had to go out at night and sit in the garden, and there was so much light pollution, I never actually saw anything. It's in the garage now and sees even less. But there you go.
I tell you what, somebody will probably evaluate one day. Maybe not in your...
Yeah, they might. Well, when they do, they can make me an offer and have it. They'll inherit. You think? They'll have to be quick. It might be going in a skip at the weekend. Pleasure, David. It's why I'm here. Have a good night. How do Joe?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello, Joe.
Yeah, what is happening? I've got a really peculiar problem here because I've been waking up in the morning with panic attacks. Oh?
Right. Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah, so I've been to the hospital. They're saying that my body is going into like a fight and flight mode where I'm getting like a panic. Well, it's not like an illness; it's just a panic attack. But I'm very scared of death. In the mornings I get very afraid of the thought of death in the mornings when I make myself a cup of coffee in the morning. I get like an illness in my body. I think I might have caught this coronavirus because I had like a sweat in. I had like a bad sweat in the morning and a high fever and I was coughing bad. And I think I've got through the virus. I think I had the virus and I've actually got through the virus. But I'm getting like these panics about like in the mornings, like a fear, phobia of dying somehow.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've got a drinking problem. I've got like a drinking problem now. I can go like 3 hours when I wake up in the mornings without the drink, and then like I take to the drinking, with the lockdown. I've been stuck in for over a week now. Over a whole week and I haven't been out. I've got like drinks in, I've got food in. But I try to occupy my time with like playing chess. I've got a chess computer. I watch the TV. I've got a laptop. I play bingo on the laptop. I get very bored. I like to alcohol. I like the alcohol is making me ill. I'm seeking comfort in the alcohol and the cigarettes, but it's actually making me ill.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wanted to say about like the Chinese people. The Chinese people seem to have these masks, when you see the Chinese people on the TV, the way Wu-Tang cope with the illness. They've got these masks, they've all got these masks. And if I tried to get a mask, I asked him in the pharmacy for a mask, and he said they've got no mask.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. Stephen's new. How do Stephen?
Good evening. Well, as Confucius would say, follow that. Needless to say, I was quite amused with that the first time coming on your programme. But I'm going to be really serious now about this COVID-19.
Okay.
If you're in a loving relationship with somebody, obviously you want to be close to them at times, don't you? Now, they tell us on television that you pass this coronavirus through, somebody's spittle, unfortunately coughing or sneezing. But if you're kissing, could you catch it that way?
Very definitely.
Yeah, it's never been explained exactly to us. My other concern is as well, is that, say for argument's sake, I got a swab test today, and I wait a week, and the prognosis comes back that I'm fine. I may feel a little bit, I'll go and see my grandchildren, I might go and see them, give them a kiss and whatever. Well, as I travel there on a bus or a train, I may have picked up the virus, but because I've been
That is
told,
correct.
I'm a little bit blasé about it, and I could be a bit more dangerous, couldn't I?
Well, I don't know about more dangerous. You will be the same level of danger, but you would be less respectful of the requirement to stay 6 feet away.
But that's what I'm saying. If you have a swab, it gives you a false sense of security, doesn't it? Because when you've got the test, it's a week
could
later,
do.
say, and you may have picked it up in the meantime.
All the test will reveal is whether you have it or don't have it. That's it. It won't reveal anything else. And it doesn't say, if it says you've not got it, that doesn't mean you won't get it an hour later.
Exactly.
Off somebody.
So what is the point of giving somebody a swab when it's only like an MOT for a car? The day you get your car MOT, they say your car's fine that day. The next day, you could get pulled by a policeman for a completely different thing. and the MOT station says, yeah, but we only MOT there on that day. And it's, you know, what I'm saying is, you fit on that day according to the swab, but thereafter, it means nothing, does it?
Well, indeed it does not. The testing will only reveal whether you have it or not.
Exactly.
And yes, if it says to you you've not got it, it would be unwise for you to allow that to change your behaviour.
Of course, I'm agreeing with you. Any common-minded person would say that. But again, it's an old adage in life, isn't it? It's like if we give everyone a test who smoked and it was proven they didn't have cancer, probably millions of them would carry on smoking. But fortunately, like myself with throat cancer, I got told 12 years ago I had throat cancer. So it's frightened the living daylights out of me, so I've never touched a cigarette since. But if I'd have been told that I was all clear, would I, or would I not still be smoking?
I don't know. Only you can know that.
Something really to ponder on when we go through these transgressions in our life. I mean, there's never been mentioned about making love on television. It's never been mentioned that these tests on television, they only give you the where's and why for when it's too late, if you understand what I mean.
Well, what they say on television and radio and in the papers is that if you are in a relationship with somebody living in the same address as them, then as far as anybody's concerned, you are both in the same boat, because if one of you has it, very quickly the other one will have it, because the virus is very, very good at transferring from one person to another. And the only way to prevent it travelling from one person to another is to remove its opportunity. And that opportunity is provided by proximity. And yes, any kind of droplet infection, droplet released from a person that has it, if it reaches the person who hasn't got it, they would quite soon get it, probably.
See, what I'm trying to say is, which way does it enter through the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears? It
enters wherever you give it the opportunity to, but the easiest place for it to enter are the eyes, nose and mouth. That's the easiest place. Whether it can enter via other orifices, I do not know. But the easiest place. Well, there doesn't seem to be a need, because if you're having sex with somebody, then there's a reasonable chance that you're inhaling whatever they exhale. So the fact that you're connected rather lower down is of little relevance. You are inhaling each other's expiration, and therefore will get whatever it is that they have in their expiration.
So you know the common word for the respiratory, sweat. Will it come through sweat? Does anyone know these answers, or?
I don't know, is the simple answer. But
sweat is a bodily fluid, isn't it?
There are a number of bodily fluids.
Exactly.
But I don't know whether it will be in sweat. But I say again, if you're in a relationship with somebody and that relationship means that you are in close proximity to each other, then whether you're sweating, screwing, or just standing and chatting, it is possible that you will convey in the droplets that you exhale in normal breathing to the person close to you.
I see. So again, you know, hoping it doesn't really happen, but we can't really in any way, obviously, if you're in a loving relationship, obviously nature takes its course and these things happen. but we both could be working. I could be a police officer, and she could be a lovely nurse or a lovely doctor, and we both toddle off to our work the next day. We then take that virus with us, don't we?
Or indeed bring it home therefrom. You may have seen on television. You may have seen on television a number of people who are regarded and described as heroes, who have moved into hotels so that they can carry on working and don't go home to take the virus home to their family. Because if you live in close proximity with somebody and you have the virus, the chances of the people with whom you live not getting it are slim.
Exactly. And I'm going to let you go on that. And I would just like to say, with your last comment, people who have had to leave families to look after others, if there is such a place as a heaven, those saints in our national health and our public services will definitely get first place in my eyes. Good night and God bless, and thank you very much.
Good night indeed. Have a good night. How do Alan?
Hi, Alan. How are you? Okay.
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, good. I just want to talk about situations where I'm living. I mean, how it changed from before the virus to what I'm doing now. Before the virus, I mean, I'm retired now. Obviously, I'm 88 years of age and living on my own. I kept reasonably fit for doing things for charity, for cancer research, dancers and things. And did that up till the virus arrived, until it broke me hip. And then what I've done, the way of living, as far as I was concerned, I've always opened the first thing in the morning when I get up, just to explain some of my day, I open all the doors, windows, and let everything blow out, for about 3 or 4 minutes, because it's all foul air from the following day. I haven't had any central heating on for 8 years now. I've always relied on clothes and a throw blanket I've got at night just for watching television. So I've always put more clothes on. I put as much clothes on as I have when we're going out anywhere, just to keep warm in the house. I think that's a healthy way. Well, it's been all right with me, sort of thing. Now, when the virus came along, I just really think about it. Living on my own there. I did explain the other night about going into the supermarket across the road. Frightened me to death. I'm isolating here and go across there and catch something and I'm not careful, when I'm going shopping. Yeah. And so I watch that now. I've sorted 1 or 2 things out, passing people on the road where they take deep breaths and hold it for a minute and just burst it out of my lips as I'm going past them. I think they'll keep it away from me, from my lungs. I've started to do things like that, which are I've never done before. And the only trouble is, you still go back into the old habits if you're not careful. All of a sudden something can happen. I said just today when I rung up my girlfriend and she was in there, I said, put him on the phone. Well, I put him on that phone, he could catch something. I mean, it's quite easy to slip up. You've got to watch every little thing, every little detail going along. Because as you explained to the guy who was talking to, that it's quite easy to catch with the droplets or whatever through your eyes, nose, and mouth. And so when I do go anywhere, if I do go anywhere like across the road, I've got the idea now whether it'll work or not, putting cotton wool balls up my nose and stuffing them with that hand gel. I'm putting a little bit more in as I'm going round, and keeping my mouth closed. You see, my whole concept when I thought about all this, I thought, what I've got to think about now, take the stress away from me. If with me giving the character, I've got to concentrate on not giving it to anybody else. Never mind me, don't give it to anybody else. And having that sort of concept, it keeps it away from me. And that sort of idea for me, it takes the stress away. And that's where I am today. And the things, I go out cycling a lot, now I'm about to go cycling an hour. I've had a lovely run today. It's beautiful out there. Like champagne in the air. come back half past today, breathing it in. But anyway, that's the story. I thought I'd relate that.
Well, it's a fabulous story. Thank you very much, Alan. We're going to get to John and to Colin and to Norma and to you on 0800 218 2255. But right now, it's 22 minutes past midnight.
The sound of where we live.
And all the you did it when you were told by an assessor you need to do this, but quite frankly, it's common sense.
Yeah.
But you didn't do it because common sense has no place. What you want is advice. What you want is advice from people that know. And when you're dealing with scientific matters, the advice you get is from scientists.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, them fellas don't seem to have a lot of common sense to me.
Well, I think we've just discussed common sense. You didn't have the common. You didn't have the common. You didn't have the common sense to put kickboards on your scaffolding because it'll cost money, and you'd rather men got bricks through their heads than cost money. So don't come on here with your big ideas. You didn't have common sense. You were prepared to have your staff's lives at risk until you were told, "Ooh, that's really dangerous." So come on, don't get smart-ass with me, mate. Have a good night. How do Norma?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Somebody rang you and asked you what a Tory was.
And in China, then Corona-19 kicked off. So that's 4 months. So the government's had the risk assessment of what was happening. They've seen what was happening in China and them poor people in Italy. It devastated the country. So they knew what was happening. Yet only 4 weeks ago, we started then to do the method statement by locking down. I mean, I locked down 2 weeks before the government told me to lock down because I knew I'm in a bad position with my health at my age. So I locked down 2 weeks before the government even told me to. Because I'd seen the risk. I knew the method. So I don't know. What do you think's going on? Why do you think they were so slow?
Well, I don't know, but I can tell you what reason they gave. And it's interesting in the picture you painted, you had building sites, and then they brought in the Health and Safety Act, and then you had a risk assessment done, I presume, by professionals. And those professionals said, look, we've assessed it, this is what you're required to do, and you, like a good employer, went away and did it. So you knew there was a risk, you took advice from people that understand it, and you acted on their advice.
On their method, of dealing with the risk,
Well, they told you what to do, and you did it. But you took advice, and you followed the advice, Well, that is precisely what the government have said that they have done. Yes, they were aware of the virus. They were aware of what it was doing elsewhere, in China and in Italy and elsewhere, and they took advice. They took advice from the senior scientists in this field, in this country, and they said, this is what you need to do, and that is what the government did. Now, some of the things... I'm just telling you what happened. Some of the things...
I'm asking your opinion. Do you think the government was slow?
I don't have one. I don't have enough knowledge to say whether they were slow.
Oh, right.
But they went to the scientists and they said, what should we do? And the scientists said, you should do this. So that's what they did. Now, some of the decisions, some of the advice, information given by the scientists was contrary to what other scientists in other countries have been giving their governments. But you don't employ a scientist and say, tell me what I need to do, and then when he or she says do this, you say no. That would be stupid. It might even be negligent. Just like when your risk assessor said, I don't know what he said, but he said, for example, you need a back rail on your scaffolding, you need a footboard on your scaffolding. You didn't say, no, I'm not bothering with that. You did it.
Yeah.
Because an expert had told you that's what you should do.
Yeah. I didn't even know that there was an out of date on a bag of cement. And a bag of cement, when it runs out of its sale time, has got to be thrown in the skip.
And what the government did was they went to the top scientists and said, what should we do? And the top scientists said, you should do this. So that's what they did.
Yeah.
And we all know the outcomes. But the government at every press conference have said, we have followed scientific advice. And they have continued to do that. And I remember them saying in a few conferences ago, I mean, they all blend into one because they're every damn day, but I remember a few conferences ago, and they were asked whether everybody should wear face masks. And they said, well, the advice at the moment from the scientists is that there isn't really a need for it yet. However, if the advice changes, we'll change our policy. But at the moment, we're being told by the scientists, because politicians, they're just politicians. They're just people who are elected into office and then given a job about which they know nothing. You know, the Chancellor of the Exchequer doesn't have to be an accountant. The Prime Minister doesn't have to be able to lead something. The Health Secretary doesn't have to be a doctor. They're just the figurehead at the top who implements and makes the decisions based on the advice that he or she receives. And so they said, at the moment, the answer, this is a few weeks ago, at the moment, the answer is there's not a lot of point in everybody wearing masks. So we won't advise wearing them. But if the science changes, then we will change. So they're doing what you did. Seeing the problem, taking advice, implementing the advice.
Yeah. I mean, God love Boris. I mean, I do like him. I like the way he's running the country. And I don't like saying this, but I wish he'd caught that thing 3 weeks earlier. By Christ, he'd have locked this country down then.
Well, would he? I don't know.
Oh, I think he would have done, yeah. I mean, it's common sense. Lockdown was absolutely common sense.
But, Colin, if we ran the government and ran the country on common sense and ignored the professional advice, then, quite frankly, having kickboards to stop people stepping off the edge of scaffolding sounds like common sense to me. Well, you didn't do it.
Yeah, well, kickboards weren't for stepping off the end; they were for.
Well, whatever they were for, but
okay.
Whatever. But you didn't do it. Well, you may be right, and the reason for them, and I'm wrong in the reason for them, but that reason existed beforehand, but you didn't do it. Why not? It's common sense.
It was it was money.
But you didn't follow. Well, you didn't follow common sense.
No, because it was money. It was to put a kickboard up would have cost money.
Well, but it would have. But Colin, I don't know what point you're making by saying it would have cost money, because once the risk assessor said you need to put that in, it didn't suddenly become free.
No,
you had to do it.
But beforehand, it was free because we didn't do it.
Well, not doing it is always free. That we know. If you don't buy a car, cars are very, very cheap. But what I'm saying to you is the common sense of it didn't change as a result of the risk assessment. You did it when you were told by an assessor you need to do this. But quite frankly, it's common sense.
Yeah.
But you didn't do it because common sense has no place. What you want is advice. What you want is advice from people that know. And when you're dealing with scientific matters, the advice you get is from scientists.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, them fellas don't seem to have a lot of common sense to me.
Well, I think we've just discussed common sense. You didn't have the common. You didn't have the common. You didn't have the common sense to put kickboards on your scaffolding because it'll cost money, and you'd rather men got bricks through their heads than cost money. So don't come on here with your big ideas. You didn't have common sense. You were prepared to have your staff's lives at risk, until you were told, "Ooh, that's really dangerous." So come on, don't get smart ass with me, mate. Have a good night. How do Norma?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Somebody rang you and asked you what a Tory was.
Well, I think I know what they are, but why they were called that, yes.
During the 17th and 18th centuries, the politicians sort of gravitated into two different political parties, very loosely bound together, and they were called Whigs and Tories.
They were?
Yeah, the Tories and the Whigs were, the names Tory and Whig were originally insults, because I can't remember which way around it is, but one's a Scottish bandit and the other's an Irish cattle rustler, or maybe the other way around, whatever. But of course, humans being humans, they took those insults and made them into badges.
That's how it works sometimes, isn't it?
That's where it started. But of course, the Whigs, turned, as you said earlier, turned into Liberals. But that party's changed so much that the name Whigs disappeared. But the Tories, the Conservatives, still carry that insult as a badge of honour.
Well, I like that. I like it a lot. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good night. Thank you. The name's Tories withdraw from religious differences. So there you are. 0800 218 2255 if you want to join us. That's good. I'll do John.
Hi, Alan. Thanks.
Hiya.
Good morning, mate. I was going to ask you a welfare question. Can I just do a quick one on the social distance and then lockdown?
Go on.
Please. Yeah. Your family visit. Well, obviously they can't come in, but till I have a daughter who'll pick some shopping up for us and what have you. She'll drop her at the steps and have a quick gap through the window, from a distance. Excuse me. Now, I got a letter today, right? And I've got a guy coming around to do the boiler check. Now, obviously, that is very important, with the safety thing, and you have to fix the boiler in the house. Now, obviously, I've got to have to let him in, and I've got to keep, my wife's in a wheelchair, but I've got to keep her away from him and me, myself, and he said it'll take about an hour to do your boiler, which is, that's fair dues. That's, that shouldn't be a problem. But, he's a complete stranger, even though he's a workman doing his job. I don't know how many houses he's been to before me, or who he's come in contact with, or if they've kept social distance. And I'm thinking, well, your family's not allowed to. What's wrong with letting your family in if you're social distancing in the house? See what I mean?
Well, I suppose the argument is that you are very likely to have some kind of physical proximity with your family that you're unlikely to do with a bloke from the gas board.
Yeah, but if you're not that, she'll come and drop shopping off, and she knows she'll stand outside, the good distance away, and so she'll know. If I said the back gate's open, you can come in and sit in the garden, furniture there, and then I'll make you a brew. But I'll come. Well,
she can come and sit in the garden. The rule is that you must be 6 feet away.
So she's allowed to come in if we keep that distance.
Well, it is unwise, but providing you maintain your social distance, then I don't see the problem. But I do see the problem in that if one of you has the virus, you may well be leaving deposits of the virus on the property around you. So your daughter sits in the garden and you take her a cup of tea, and then you've had the handle in your hand. If you've got the virus, then she touches the handle, she's got it, and the reverse. So,
I've got the strange workman coming in, so I have to go around wiping the boiler down and everything. I don't know where he's going to touch in the kitchen.
Well, he might be wiping it down anyway as part of
that's fine. It was just a quick one, Alan.
A new part of his role.
Yeah, that's fine, mate. I just thought, a fella coming in doing work, but you weren't allowed your family and keep yourself. Anyway, no problem. I was going to ask you, it's a quick one. Because you used to do the welfare stuff, didn't you? Like benefit stuff.
Well, yeah, but they've changed since then. They are nothing like.
Yeah, I know it's a long time when you did it on Merseyside. Yeah, but what it was, like with the benefit, you get like help with your housing benefit if, obviously my wife being disabled and whatever. And so you get a housing benefit, but you get a top. You have to pay the top of. You don't pay the full amount. So it turns out we were paying them £50 a week. No, sorry, £50 a fortnight was like topping up the what's it. But originally they said 45, which we paid religiously. And then after a bit, it's a while back, and then we got a letter saying you're like 400 quid in arrears. I said, well, how comes that? He said, well, you haven't paid any water rate. I said, well, that's in with that. And he said, well, no, it's not. Anyway, tried to cut it short. We sort of cleared that off. We have to clear that off. And I said, so what do we do now? And he said, well, it's £50 towards your housing benefit. So like, great, that's been going on for a long time. Then we received a letter saying we're no longer including your water rate. You have to pay that separate to United Utilities, and they'll be in touch. April, basically, the new tax year. Anyway, we got a letter from them, and they said, this is your bill for the next 12 months, April to April, and it's £40 a month. Fine, that's great. So I got back into the housing people, right, and I said, I've got my bill. So how much do I pay you now? Do I pay you 45 or no? Let me just work it out for you. Your rent, well, it'll be £48, just short of 50 quid, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, the 50 quid covered, the housing benefit was to top up the housing benefit, but included water rate. Now I've got to find an extra 40 quid a month. And they said, well, take that over to the water company. So I rang the water company, I explained that to them, and they said, well, it's not to do with us, take it up with them. And so I said, well, it's gone from £50 to a £90 bill.
But I presume...
Overnight,
I presume, I don't know, I presume that your rent and the rates for the property went up in April, just like they did for everybody else.
Yeah, well, they did. But what I'm saying is, they said with your slight increase of the rent, it went from, minus the water rate, they said it's like, they thought 9 quid because it's only coppers in between. I said, well, that's basically still paying you 50 quid, but minus the water rate. But now I've got a separate bill for 40 quid on top of that. So it just didn't make sense to me. I thought you might have worked it out for me, mate. Didn't make sense to me.
Well, a person, to work it out, a person would have to sit down and look at all the figures, and not just the figure for the year we're now in, but the preceding year, to work out what percentage of the amount you were paying covered the water rate. It is possible that the water rates were being paid. It is even possible that they had a deal with the water people, and that deal has ended. I don't know. I'm just positing ideas. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's what he said. He said we're not collecting that. That £50 included your water rate plus your top up of the housing benefit, but we're not taking that now. So the water, you'll get that separate. And I said, but the £50 could virtually still there. But
there are three elements. There are three elements. There are three elements. There's the water. There's the rates, as it were, the council tax, and there's the rent. Now, all three of those have probably gone up. How much they've gone up, I don't...
Well, no, this is just the rent and the water, Alan, because the council tax is virtually covered, to be honest. They cover that. So it's just...
Right, okay, well, it's...
50 quid covers the top-up of the rent and the water.
Well, you need to...
staying the same.
You need to do the arithmetic for last year. So work out the amount you paid over the year, last year, and then say, OK, that's how much I paid, how much of that was for water, how much of it was for rent. And they ought to be able to give you that reply.
Well,
and then,
I've done that, because I said, shouldn't we just go back to...
No. Have they given you the... Listen to the question, John. John, listen.
All right, I'm listening, mate, sorry.
Have they given you the numbers?
Well, all they give me is they've said...
It's a yes-no question. Have they given you the numbers?
No, Alan, because it's like...
There, so, like I said, John, I don't know anything. John, ask them for the numbers. So ask them, say, I paid to you last year this amount of money.
Yep.
It'll be a few thousand. I paid this amount of money to you, a few hundred. I paid this amount of money to you last year. I want to know how much of it was rent and how much of it was rates, water rates. And when you get that, then you'll be able to look at the percentage increase of each of the two elements and be able to work out why it is that one of them seems to have gone up by a large proportion. But you'd have to deal with the two groups separately. So once you find out what your water rates were for last year and what your rent was for last year, you'll now know what your rent is this year, because you'll be able to multiply by 52 what you pay every week, or 12 what you pay a month, or whatever, and your water the same. And then you'll be able to work out what percentage increase each of those elements is. And then you'll be able to question whichever lot it is, why has it gone up by so much?
Yeah, well, I did actually do that in a fashion, but they just started playing tennis with me. They said, you talk to them, you talk to them. So, anyway,
well, like I said, I asked you specifically whether you had the numbers for last year, and your answer was no. So you can't have done what I just said.
No, they didn't give me the numbers. All I know that the 50 was the rent and the water rates, but they're saying now the rent is just short of 50. So
I'm not going to go through it all again. You need, in order for you to help yourself, you need the breakdown between the water rates and the rent that you paid last year. You need the two separate figures so that you can then look at each of the figures when compared to what you'll be paying this year, and you'll be able to work out which one of them has gone up by the large amount that they appear to have gone up by. And then you can ask whoever that is, why such a large increase?
Okay, thanks.
I'll do Keith.
Good morning, Alan.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. What would you like to talk about?
It's in response to all these calls you've had about the satellites that have been seen.
Okay.
And it's basically, it is Elon Musk, and they're called Starlink satellites. And basically what he's doing is he's planning on putting several thousand of these satellites up in orbit, and what they're actually for is his plan is to give free internet to basically every point on the planet. Now, the issue is, I'm an amateur astronomer, and I'm up at the moment because I'm taking photographs at the moment of the night sky. And basically, Mr. Musk is in quite a bit of hot water at the moment with the international astronomical societies and the professions on a professional level, because the problem that these are going to cause with the destruction of the night skies. And when we're looking at things like the investments of sort of multi-billions of dollars in the likes of Chile and South America and all over the globe of these massive telescopes that they're building and they have built, I think the number is something like, he's planning on putting up something like 20,000 of these satellites. They're only a small cube. They're something like a foot cube satellite, but the problem is the reflection that they're causing. Now, at the minute, there's 60 or 70 of them up at the moment, but like I say, he's planning on putting several thousand of these up, and we have so few dark skies across the planet now anyway. I think there's 2 or 3 in the UK that can be classed as dark skies. But to the professional astronomical telescopes and such that are Earth-based, these are going to pose a very, very serious problem of the further enhancement of information that we can get, with regard to the universe.
they'll presumably have less effect on radio telescopes, but on light telescopes, yeah, they're going to be a problem. And
it's on a visual scale, but we're developing such large telescopes that are Earth-based, that are visual, that these are going to pose a real big problem. And he's already been asked to, and he's supposed to be trying to reduce the reflection of these satellites, and he's supposed to have launched, the last lot that he put up was supposed to be non-reflective with this new substance that he's developed that will not damage any sort of data that's coming in onto these telescopes, but as of yet, it's not worked. So there's a big sort of furore of, well, what are you going to do about it, Mr. Musk? But he's going on regardless in just launching more and more of these satellites. So it's a bit of an impasse at the minute that he's launching all of these. And, I mean, obviously, myself the telescope's up at the minute, hence the reason why I'm up at this time in the morning, because I'm taking photographs of the night sky. But obviously, on a professional level, where they're investing billions of dollars and pounds into these telescopes, then it's a danger to the profession and further enhancement of the knowledge of the universe. So, where it's going to end up, we really don't know.
Indeed we don't. We shall have to wait and see. Keith, thank you very much indeed. How do John?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to say tonight, I live in Blackpool, and the last 2 or 3 nights, Alan, it's something ridiculous what I've seen, with the stuff in the sky, like a cigar-shaped light, and it's got a blue persona, and I'm just wondering, I actually reported it as well a couple of nights ago, and I've not heard anything, but it's very strange,
Well, did what you see or meet the description that we've had about?
It was Alan. It was absolutely as clear as night, and it wasn't something moving quick or fast. It was been in the sky for about an hour. So I thought, am I seeing something here, or is it just me? And I thought other people would have reported it, like seeing it. But I don't have a good phone, me.
So what did you see? So what did you see?
It was like a white light in the middle of the sea, basically.
In the middle of the sea?
Yeah, because I live facing the sea.
So a light in the sea?
Yeah, right, not in the sea, on the sky, right up. Yeah.
Well, when you say in the middle of the sea, like a fool, I thought you meant it was in the sea. How silly of me.
No.
So it was in the sky?
In the sky.
So it was nowhere near the sea. So it was a light in the sky. No. Describe it to me rather more fully.
It's clear as a bell. I've got high-powered binoculars. I looked at it, and it's a blue.
Yeah, describe it to me.
Right, it's like a little cigar shape, and when I got my high-powered binoculars on it, it's got a blue persona, like with little hair strands sticking out of it. And I just anyway, I've seen it. I think it was on Tuesday night. I first seen it, and I thought, they're all bringing up now, seeing this. And then Wednesday night, I seen it again. And then last night, I didn't see it at all. It was absolutely clear, so I thought, maybe, I don't know, air ambulance or something. And then tonight, there it was again. And like I said, I've been facing the sea for a couple of years now. And, nothing unusual at all. But the last 4 or 5 days, it's been a hyperactivity. So
perhaps it was a blue meanie.
Sorry?
Perhaps it was a blue meanie.
A blue meanie?
Yeah, John Lennon invented the blue meanies back in the 60s. Maybe it was one of those. Do have a good night. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us tomorrow night? You can. I'll be here between 10 and 1 in the time-honoured way, Monday to Thursday. Tonight, of course, it's